Hi, I'm edA-qa mort-ora-y, and welcome back to the show. Today I'd like to look at some blending modes with CSS. This was an example shown to me by a friend. I don't know the original source of the example, but I'd like to go through and sort of explain how these blending modes work and how we get this effect that you see on the screen here, how we get these numbers appearing, how we get these colors, and a basic explanation of how blend modes work. If you have any questions, please ask, and otherwise I'm going to jump right into this. So if you've done a bit with CSS before, you'll understand a little bit about blend modes. And blend modes say how something blends with the thing behind it. And this simple example here has only 4 layers, and so the whole check is achieved with that. And then it's mainly with CSS. The actual animation we'll get to in a bit. This is by animating one layer, and the other parts are done away. So if we look at this black and white here, we have this basic effect. Now, I'm going to remove 2 layers first of all. Let's remove all 3 layers to see where we start. I don't know if there's a way to mark things as... Whoops, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Let's find the right keystroke. So we start by making a white background. Now this actual arrow background here, this is taken from this pattern gallery here. I'll just post it in the chat in case you want to reference. And that's just to show how the basic blending mode works. We have white, and we're going to go down to BG white, and that's an absolute position, that's standard CSS, and it has a background of FFF. And it does not have a blend mode, which means it's using the basic blend mode of normal. Normal means just take whatever colors here, white, and apply it to it. So we have this wrapper, it's this size, and we're filling it with white, as opposed to the background. If you didn't have this here, you would then see that the background is transparent because we do not have the white. And this is to show that we're actually applying white in a basic blending mode. Now, the next thing we add, and I'm going to try and do these one at a time. The next one we add is this black blending mode. This black is animated. This black layer is animated. We don't see it. It looks like it's filling up, but it's actually I'm just going to remove this comment here. It's explaining it. So it has this animation on it. I'm not going to explain the animation thing, but basically animates from the bottom to the top. And this is a bit easier to see if I remove the clipping on the wrapper. So if I take the clipping off of the wrapper, overflow hidden, then you'll better see that the black is actually just a panel sliding up over the white one. Nothing too magical there. And the overflow hidden just hides that magic and says, look, it's hidden there. And so what is the standard clipping here? There is still no blend mode here. So really, we're using the normal blend mode again. It just overlaps that. Again, if we remove the white background, you'd see it just overlaps the transparent background. We have the blend mode normal. It just adds it to it. So these two blend modes together, white and black, both normal, create this interface of this bar just going up. The next part is where it starts to get interesting, is the text mode. Because if I add the text here, we have this effect where part of the text is white and part of the text is black. And that's if we go to the text node, the text thing here, again, ignore the positioning. And you notice the color of the text is white. So, and it has a transparent background. I don't know if that's necessary or not. So what happens if I remove the 2 layers first? You can see that it's white. Oh, and I'm going to remove the blend mode first of all too. So let's remove the blend mode as well. So with a normal blend mode, this CSS layer would be white. The actual numbers are coming from a keyframe animation on percentage. You can just ignore that. That's just part of the animation. You can look at that detail if you want. So the actual text is white and has a transparent background. So the text layer itself is making this white. So now if you put this against the normal background up here, you'll see you can't see white. Now we see white against the black because it's just a normal blend mode where it's white on white. And for that white on white, you'll see it part of the time and see the part of the time not. So this is the first place where blend mode actually comes into play. If we set blend mode difference, something interesting happens. This is where the white text becomes black and white. And this has to do with what the difference is. The difference says, well, take what this layer is, and we just saw that this layer is the white text. It's a white text, so this layer is, I'm going to just abuse the JavaScript stuff over here, and just say the white text. And this has a color of 1, 1, 1. And I'm going to use standard RGB notation. I'm not going to use CSS's broken notation. Values in normal notation are arranged as 0 to 1. And this is actually quite important for understanding blending mode because all the operations are done in basic linear math which require this normalized value. So you have white text. And what does difference mean? So we have this source, and I call it source equals white text. And then we have a destination. And what is the destination? Because we're blending with the background, the destination is what's on the screen right now. It's this, and it's this black or white. So the destination is either white or it's black. And so how does this interact with the blend mode difference? So what difference says is it literally is a difference operation. It takes a subtraction. So the result is going to be source minus destination. And so what does that mean? That means if we have white text and a white background, and that's the top part. And this top part here is white text in a white background. So what do we have? We have white 1, 1, 1 minus 1, 1, 1 equals 0, 0, 0. That gives us the black text on the top. So that's what's interesting. That's how we get the black text on the top. Now, how do we get the white text on the bottom? Well, the white text on the bottom is the source is 1, 1, 1 minus 0, 0, 0 because the background is black now. And that gives us the white text on the bottom. And that's what creates this basic effect here of having this two-colored text. This is just basic subtraction mode. You have to be really careful with subtraction. A lot of this basic operations work because we're dealing with grayscale here, or more specifically, black and white. If you try to do this in color, you're going to get very odd results because it's going to do something different. Which is why in this example, we have this final thing called overlay. And the overlay is what gives it that really nice, gives it a new color. And so the overlay gives it these color to it. And that's really all our overlay wants to do is create the color because there's no way to create this color directly with these effects. Usually you create the templates with the black and white, and then you're going to create some sort of overlay and give it a color. To simplify this, let's get rid of the text first of all and show just how this black becomes this color and the white becomes this color. This is the overlay. It's very simple. It has this background. This background color is this bluish color here, this light sort of blue color. And then it uses this blend operation called screen. Now, screen is kind of it's a really straightforward operation. I can show you over in Wikipedia what that's defined as. Screen is this operation right here. It's 1 minus alpha, 1 minus beta. This is the source and destination. And because it's multiplication, it doesn't really matter what order you do it in. I'm going to throw this over in the chat as well, just so we have a reference of that from you watching. And I'll put these in the comments as well later. And this sort of does this invert multiply. And this is really useful for black and white. Now, at a logical level, and I'm not going to do the math here, you can work through the math on your own. At a logical level, what this ends up doing is screen basically says, well, take this background color, and whatever's black right now, make it this color. And whatever's white, just make it transparent, do nothing with it. And that's sort of how we get this effect here. When black and white, it becomes a mask. So when you're using grayscale, screen becomes a mask, and you can work through that formula using destination stuff, and you can actually see how that creates the mask. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And because right now we only have the background, it took out text, it's very simple. If we add back in the text, it applies the mask the same way. And again, this is the mask on the black and white, where the black is becoming the color and the white is just remaining white. And that's just a simple operation of that blending mode. It looks like a complex blending mode, but we came up with that blending mode, or somebody came up with that blending mode because it has this very useful effect when you're dealing with grayscale. If your inputs are color, weird stuff starts to happen. So you stick with grayscale and we leave it at that. So again, show you, this is what we had coming into this. We had a black and white mask, and this is the mask, and these black and white masks work wonderful for further operations, further blending, and for the mask mode screen. And so what basically screen again is saying in simplified form is that if it's black, give it this color, otherwise leave it as the white. And you can work through the math on your own. It's a little bit longer, and it's just simple though. If you just follow the simple algebra as I did here, you take your source and destination, you plug it into the screen formula, and you'll actually come out and see that all it's doing is applying the colorization to that. And if you want to use other colors in the background, you're going to have to understand the operation a bit more. And I think this is all I want to explain. I'll put this thing in the comments where it is. I'll save a copy of this, whatever one I have. And if somebody happens to know the person who first created this example, let me know. I'll have the link to it as well. Otherwise, this is a very basic explanation of how blending modes work and how the basic math behind it is just some linear math. And it's nothing too complicated. But you have to understand it's always blending with the background. There is a mode in CSS where things do not blend with the background. There's something called an isolation flag. And if you're interested, go play with isolation. It gets really interesting. But since we have a solid white background, it doesn't make a difference. And I could show you curiosity. If we remove that solid white background, interesting things will happen. And this is where you don't get purity of color anymore. The screening doesn't quite work. And so be very careful with it. Just understand when doing this, if you want to use screen, to have a clean mask first, black and white, and then you can have nice screening and do many different effects. And just understand that when we do this blending modes, we're blending with the background and there's layers applied in here. And in general, we don't isolate, but there is that option in CSS, but it's a little bit tricky. And that's all I wanted to cover today. I'll throw this up on YouTube afterwards. And I thank you for watching. And later today, I'm probably going to come back and do some music production because I got Big Way working. And I hope you enjoyed this short show, and we'll see you again later. Thank you very much.